afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the BPACNZRx Prescribing module, which utilises the New Zealand Drug Formulary. And welcome to Alert Level 2. We can appreciate it's a really busy time at the moment, so thanks for joining us. If for some reason you can't stay, we will put a recording of this webinar up on our website and customer portal insight, by early next week. So before we get started in the presentation, I'll just go over the agenda for today. So I'll give you a few pointers on how to use GoToWebinar, and then I'll introduce our team of presenters today. We'll allow time for a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions about the audio or visual connection on GoToWebinar, we'll try and answer those immediately. So let us know if you're having any problems. You should be able to see the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen there. Click the orange arrow to collapse the control panel. The orange microphone tells you that you're muted, and all audience members will be muted for this presentation. The next icon will either maximize or minimize the screen that you're viewing the webinar in. We recommend that you keep it maximized. And if you have a question for us, type it where it says enter a question for staff, and we'll answer it at the end of the session. If your question isn't answered directly, someone will be in touch in the next couple of days to assist you with your query. We're very grateful to have Tony Wilson from BPACNZ joining us today. Tony is the Chief Operating Officer at BPACNZ. We also have Chrissy Patterson, our Product Manager, and she will lead the Q&A session at the end of the webinar, along with Graham Sterling. And my name is Holly Hodson. I'm the Clinical Product Specialist here at Medtech. So I'll present the main part of the prescribing module in Medtech32 today. So, time to kick things off. Tony has worked closely with us throughout the development and rollout of this module in Medtech32. So he's going to talk to you for a little bit about providing an overview of the prescribing module's benefits, costings, and how to access additional information from BPAC. So, Tony, I will just hand over to you in 2 seconds.
Thank you, Holly. I hope everyone can... Great, I'll just show my screen. I'm assuming everyone can see that now. So yes,
that's great, thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure really to be able to introduce BPACNZRx today. We're very excited at BPAC about being able to bring this module within Medtech. It has been something we've been working on with Medtech for the last year or more. I guess, what is it? Hopefully everyone here knows that already, but it is a new prescribing module that's available within Medtech32. And we're also having one that's coming shortly to Medtech Evolution for those practices that use Evolution. So there'll be a version available for you very shortly. I guess the key feature and point of difference for this module, it is fully based on New Zealand formulary information. All of the information in the prescribing module and the features are driven out of the New Zealand formulary. It also incorporates seamless access. For those practices that are using the electronic prescribing service, you'll be able to use that within this module quite seamlessly. So what are the benefits? The main benefits that we see that are unique to this module that it gives, as I said before, access to adult and child monographs in the New Zealand formulary and all formulary information at the time of prescribing. So when you're writing a prescription as a prescriber and you want to access any of the information relating to that medication that's in the New Zealand formulary, you'll be able to do that with a single click of a button. If you only want safety related information, there'll be a button where you can select that. If you want the full monograph, again, you can access that directly within the prescribing module. You won't need to go out, open a web browser and then try and find the appropriate medication. It'll be right there at your fingertips. As part of that, you'll be able to use the formulary's drug interaction engine, which is based on Stockley's. You'll also have some benefits such as being able to suppress less severe drug interactions, but that's at your discretion. We've reworked the patient-specific medical warning system so that it will now incorporate current medicines, any allergies or other important notes that may have been entered in relation to medical warnings. As a new feature, all medical warnings will be assigned a level of severity, which will either be mild, moderate, or severe. You can disable the mild level warnings if you wish, so that they don't become too intrusive. Moderate ones will always display, and if a medical warning has been marked as severe, that will block a prescriber from actually prescribing that medication. So there's an additional safety feature there. If you then wish to prescribe it for some reason, you'd have to change the severity level in order to do that. There are other minor feature changes, such as improved use of the drugs and sport filters, which will also be of benefits for those prescribers who have elite sports people that may need to be taken into consideration. And finally, we've made it very simple to transfer patients' existing medicines into the new module. In some cases, where patients are on medications that no longer exist in their current form in New Zealand, there will be a requirement to select an alternative medication that is available, but in most cases, the patient's medications will automatically map across into the new system. How do you get BPACNZRx into your practice? We've tried to make that as simple as possible for all practices. The starting point is to go to our webpage. If you type in bpacnzrx.org, it will take you to a web page where you can begin that process. If you wish to subscribe, there's a fairly simple subscription form to fill in. Please provide the details on that form. We'll get back in touch with you once we've got your details, and we'll work with you in your practice to get set up. And then once you're ready, you can switch BPACNZRx on at any time that works best for your practice. So you choose the time when you want to move across when your prescribers are ready. If you need to do any in-house training to get them up to speed, you can do that first. And then when you think you're ready, just turn it on. Here's just a quick screenshot of the header line of the web page that we would encourage you to go to. There's a section, the About BPACNZRx, which really just provides some background information. If you wish to subscribe, go to the Subscribe Now button. If you need to know the pricing details, just click on that, and there's a pricing calculator there that will help work out what it would cost for your practice. For those who like the level of detail, you can read the customer agreement. We've tried to keep it in plain English. If you need more resources, you want to explore it in more detail, there's a resourcing page. It's got a lot of detail, and I'll show you what's available there shortly. And finally, if you just want to contact us, you've got some questions to ask, or when you're using the module, if you need any support, there's a support page as well. In terms of resources that are available to you now, so you can explore the module, there are a wide range of user guides. These are also useful for practices once they're using the system. There's a mixture of administration user guides as well as prescriber user guides. So if you only want to know about how to deal with medical warnings in the new system, you can just have a quick look at the medical warnings user guides. They're all downloadable, and you could print them out if you wish to use within a practice setting. For those of you who are more visual, there are a wide range of video guides that Chrissy's kindly put together. So there's 11 separate videos. They're all very short, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, to show you how to perform key functions within the new system. And finally, if you need any more support, you can just reach out to our support team, and we're there to help you. Finally, just a quick note on the pricing structure that we've established for the module. So we're proposing to price the module basically based on practice population size. And you can see there's a scale there where a very small practice would have an annual price of $570 a year, and a very large practice, it would scale up to about $4,000 a year. We think it's competitive with the market. And in fact, if you currently pay less for your MIMS subscription than the price that's indicated in the guide there, then we will guarantee to match your MIMS price. We also don't want the situation where you might be currently subscribed to MIMS wish to move across to us but don't want to pay for 2 subscriptions at the same time. So if you've got some time to run on your MIMS subscription but want to move over earlier, we won't charge you for your BPACNZRx subscription until your MIMS subscription expires. So if you've got any questions about pricing, please just contact us. I know there have been some practices that don't have an enrolled population. They might work in a public health setting. We're more than happy to come to arrangements there as well. The other thing is we will be talking to PHOs and practice networks about the opportunity for group discounts. So there may be opportunities there for your practice to participate in those as well. And if they are, we'll certainly let you know. But for the first port of call, we really encourage you to visit our website, explore it in more detail, and then talk to us about any questions you might have. That's really my set of slides, so maybe I'll hand back over to Holly or Chrissy to pick up the rest of the webinar.
Thank you, Tony. Okay. Right, guys, I'll just put my screen back on. Making sure you can all see that. Wonderful. Thank you, Tony. That was great. So if you're wanting to get set up with the BPACNZRx prescribing module, you'll need to get ready your HPI org ID for the form that you need to fill out for them, as well as the details of the numbers of prescribers in your practice, the number of enrolled patients in your practice, and make sure you have some administrator contact details. And just a little note at the bottom there, you need to remember to advise MIMS that you're going to cancel your subscription, and that responsibility sits with the practice there. So we'll just go into Medtech32 now. And you should be able to see that. Fabulous. So to start with, you need to be on a minimum version of 22.2 build 6399 or higher for this release. So we'll start with the overview of the activation and setup process. So if you click on the help menu, you'll first notice that the About MIMS menu has changed to About Drug Formulary. So click on that there. And if you select the BPACNZRx button, then you'll get a list of things that are needed to be done prior to switching drug formularies. So my screen is not what it looks like initially because I've already run the update. If you wanted the terms and conditions, you can view that on the blue lettering there. The button on the right-hand side will initially say register. So if you click that button, it'll run a background validity check, and if the registration is valid, then you'll get a pop-up telling you that the registration was successful. Once you do that, the button then changes to what it is now, which is run the BPACNZRx drug update. Click on that button to begin the file download process. You'll get some warning prompts that tell you again what prerequisites you need to go through, making sure that you've taken all those actions, then click yes. Once you've completed it, you will get a MIMS removal information prompt. So those details will automatically be saved and you can view them again from that button there that says MIMS removal information, and close any other prompts. So after the activation, the MIMS drug database won't be accessible anymore, but historical patient medications and medical warnings will still be displayed. It's important to note, and this is why I'm not showing you in real time today, the activation should be treated as a system upgrade, so all users should be logged out. The process will take some time depending on the size of your database, so we recommend that you run this at an appropriate time to make sure you don't interrupt your business where possible. You need to make sure that you meet all the prerequisites which are found in the release notes, and we recommend a full backup and restore within 24 hours prior to activation, though that's not mandatory. Okay, so we'll start with the changes made in the drug and staff setup. So to start with, we'll go to Setup, Clinical, Drug. So previously there was a tab called Therapeutic Options. Drug class tab has been renamed to Alerting Group here. The NZULM is responsible for allocating new product codes as new drugs are introduced by Pharmac. So this is now displayed under the coding tab here, and that's that field there. If we go into the More tab, the IMMP, which is the Intensive Medicine Monitoring Program option, has been removed because that's not available in either NZF or MIMS drug formularies. And finally, the sports category under the More tab has been updated to display the World Anti-Doping Agency sports categories, and that allows more granular drug filtering when prescribing. If you want any more information on the changes in here, then read the full release notes, please. Next, we'll go into the staff setup. So find your staff member, and we're going to look at the provider messages tab here. So like Tony said, there is a new option here which says display warning for mild patient medical warnings. So this has been added, and as it says, it will display medical warnings that are classified as mild. As a default, this will be selected when you activate for everybody. If you don't want that, you need to go into the staff member and untick that checkbox there. Under the interaction warnings messages here section, you can see that there is the default selection is to display all interaction warnings. But if you choose the second one, which is display specific interaction warnings, you can then choose which interaction warning messages there you want to adjust. If you wanted more information about this, you can click on the little blue help icon and that will go through full details. There are certain codes that can't be adjusted for clinical safety reasons. So once you've activated, when you first start prescribing after activating, we'll discuss medical warnings first because this is the area that you'll notice when you've first activated. So the BPACNZRx introduces a severity rating for medical warnings. So these medical warnings need to be validated before you can prescribe for a patient that have medication-based medical warnings. So this is not required for anyone that doesn't have a medical warning, or it's a note only, or no known allergies. So those patients won't have, and this won't be for those patients. But also in addition, the Manage My Health repeat prescription requests also allow this check to be bypassed, assuming that the patient's only going to be repeating existing medications, which should therefore not introduce any clinical risk to the patient. So that feature has been included to avoid delays in processing your Manage My Health repeat prescriptions. So we'll start with bringing up a patient. So if I put this person on the palette and I open up the Patient Manager F6 screen, so you'll see when I try and prescribe for this patient here, and you'll see their medical warnings tab is red, and her medical warnings are bold and italicized. So if I try and prescribe something for this patient, I'm going to get this warning message. So it's telling me that there's unverified medical warnings, so I first need to do that before I can prescribe for the patient. So I can either click OK and do that now, or I can click cancel and go into the medication warning section. So I'll show you that. So we'll click in here and double click on the medical warning. So what I need to do is classify this medical warning. So let's just say for this person it's a mild warning. So I'm going to select mild. If it was moderate, you could select moderate or severe. If you wanted more information on converting the old warnings into the new, you can click on the blue help icon there and it gives you all the information you need. Okay, so we'll classify that and you'll see now that it's no longer bold or italicized, and I can go ahead and prescribe my medication for the patient. So if I'm going to give her some Panadol. So this screen in here will go through a few changes. Right, so in this screen, you'll see firstly there's an RX safety info button. So if I click on that button, that will link through to the data sheet for that medication. There's also a sports category here, which gives you the option to filter by those that are always prohibited or just for selected sports or just in competition. Sports filters can be set in accordance with the athlete's current situation, and they will be remembered for the patient when prescribing another medication, but you can change them for individual ones. If you want more information on the sports filters, again, you can click on that little blue help icon and it goes through, it contains the link to the World Anti-Doping Agency website and also the FAQs. You'll also notice that the pregnancy filter has been removed. So we'll talk specifically about pregnancy-related prescribing information a bit later on in the presentation. The sub filter has been renamed subsidised, but the function for this has stayed the same. And finally, you'll notice that the MIMS button at the bottom has been replaced with a blue NZF button. So again, if I click on this, it takes me through to the online link for that selected medication data sheet. You'll need to have an internet connection to view this, as these data sheets aren't stored within the PMS, so you need to make sure you've got an active internet connection. And in the Advanced tab here, the Therapeutic Options tab has been removed, but the Therapeutic Group search has been enhanced, so it now allows you to drill down to further refine your search results for a medication. So now we'll go through what happens when you're repeating a medication for a patient. So I'll just bring up a different patient. So you'll first notice that, again, we need to make sure that there's no medical warnings that need to be validated. For this patient, there aren't any, which is great. In some cases, you'll see that the medications you're wanting to repeat are in italics. So this is because during the activation process, we map existing medications from the MIMS Drug Formulary to the equivalent medication in the New Zealand formulary. But in some cases, those medications can't be mapped automatically. So that could be because the medications are old pharmac meds that aren't in MIMS, or they might not have a ULN code. So in this case, when you go to repeat that prescription for the first time, you'll see it's in italics. And if I select it and go repeat, you'll get this screen here. So what this is asking you to do is to map the medication. So you need to select the medication that you're mapping it to. And if you select this checkbox here, it's going to copy the prescribing details from the old medication into the new medication. Also in this screen, you can view the medication data sheet from that RX safety info button and also the blue NZF button at the bottom. So if you're happy with that as the new medication, you can click OK, and that's going to allow you to then prescribe that medication for the patient. You can make changes if you want to, obviously, for the dosage for that new prescription if you want to. And you'll only need to do that once for that medication in that patient. So now I'll cover pregnancy. So because pregnancy-related interactions are critical to be aware of, the first 300 characters of pregnancy-related information on all medication data sheets will display at the bottom here. So you can see if I hover, this is telling me the pregnancy information for this medication. So the reason that this displays the first 300 characters is just in case you don't have an active internet connection, you can still get core pregnancy-related information for that medication. If you want to quickly view all the information, double click on that line and it will open the data sheet for that medication and take you straight to the pregnancy section. Okay. You can also view that information by clicking the blue NZF button and scrolling down to the pregnancy section. But if you double click from there, it will take you straight to it. So now we'll talk about severe drug interactions. So like Tony pointed out, the difference here is if I give this patient a severe drug allergy, so if I'm going to make this say that she's severely allergic to erythromycin, and I tick severe, you can choose to put a note here if you want. So we'll just have a look and see what that looks like on the screen. So this is going to prompt me and let me know that the medication belongs to the macrolide antibiotic allergy group. So I click OK for that. And you'll see that the severity is bold and red. And if I add any other allergy or note for this person, so I might just say latex gives rash or something like that, and I add that, that's going to automatically go below. Anything moderate or mild will go underneath severe, and the note onlys will be right at the bottom. So this again is to try and draw your attention to the most crucial information about the medical warnings for that patient. Now if I tried to prescribe that medication for the patient, so hopefully this doesn't happen, but if it does, So we'll try and give the patient some erythromycin tablets. You'll see here, I get a prompt telling me that there's a severe medical warning associated with this medication, so it can't be prescribed. So either I need to prescribe a different medication, or I need to reduce the severity level of that medical warning in consultation with the patient. So this again is a prompt to review the patient's medical warnings if that's appropriate, or thankfully be a stopgap to make sure I don't prescribe anything for the patient that's going to cause harm. You can also see at the bottom the list of allergies. You can see severe allergy, erythromycin, latex, and then again that pregnancy information will pop up here. So we won't prescribe that for the patient today. So the next thing that I'll do is just point out the child medication data sheets. So for this person, he is 12 years old. So if I'm prescribing a medication for this child, and I want to bring up the RX safety info sheet here, you'll see that this is defaulted to the children's medication data sheet, and I can flick in between the New Zealand formulary and the New Zealand formulary for children by clicking that banner at the top of the screen there. So what this means is it will automatically default to the children's data sheet because this person's only 12 years old. But again, if I want to, I can view it from that screen as well. So I can tell that because it's crimson. And then if I click on that banner here, it will go to the blue menu. So it's nice and easy to flick in between the children and the adult data sheets. In some cases where the child might be 15 years old or the size of an adult, you may want to flick in between those data sheets, so you can do that nice and easily there. The other thing that I will quickly point out is the Section 29 drugs. So I open this patient and they've got a Section 29 medication. If I open that, you'll see that it says it at the top of that patient medication, and it'll also print out on the prescription that's sent to the pharmacy. So just a little bit about the personal and preferred meds. So once you activate, only personal and preferred meds that have been mapped to New Zealand formulary drugs will be available to prescribe. So these medications are found under Setup, Clinical, and Personal Medicines. So any personal medicines that weren't mapped need to be re-added using New Zealand formulary drugs, and that's also the case for preferred medications. So we'll just recap the preferred medications. We'll go into Setup, Clinical, and in the drug, under the coding tab, this is where you can select to make that a preferred medication. So you will need to check that after activation if you want to make that a preferred medication. For user-defined drugs, so all configured user-defined drugs will be available for prescribing. But if a user-defined drug was mapped to a MIMS generic group or drug class, it'll need to be remapped to the New Zealand formulary equivalent to make sure that they're recognised during that medication warning cross-check when prescribing. If there's no generic name or alerting group specified, then no medical warning check is possible for that drug. Now, with regards to the reports and utilities, the drug usage report, which is found under Report, Clinical, and Drug Usage there. So that retains its full functionality, but it'll only report on the current drug formulary that's currently in use. So prior to activating the New Zealand formulary, we'd recommend that you run that report on your MIMS-related drug information just to have as a reference before you then move on and activate New Zealand formulary BPAC. With regards to advanced forms, third parties and integrated modules within Medtech32, we've worked with all known and approved third-party integrators that supply integrated modules using our database to practices. So all third-party integrations that are known to us should continue to retrieve patient medication and medical warning information after you activate. But we do recommend that you contact those third-party integrators to ensure that they've made any necessary changes to support the new changes prior to activating. I'll just show you now a document that we have. I'll bring it up on the screen. Hang on a moment. So this document is available on our Insight customer portal. This provides a summary of the changes, which shows both the new and updated database tables for third parties that integrate into the areas of Medtech32. So you can refer to those technical notes or refer them to the technical notes if needed. We also, like Tony has as well, we've got quite a few training guides and manuals around the BPACNZRx changes. So in our Insight customer portal, click on the Downloads New Zealand button, and on the right-hand side, you'll see Medtech32 training guides and manuals, and you can choose whether to watch the short webinars, which goes through very workflow-specific processes, or you can read the full release notes if you want to. We recommend that all prescribers familiarise themselves with the changes and the differences before you activate, just to avoid any issues after activation. So this concludes the presentation and the PMS side of things. What I'll do now is I'll hand over to Chrissy and Graham and Tony, so all of us are available to answer the questions that you may have. And Chrissy, I can open up my Medtech32 if I need to demo anything for the customers.
Thanks, Holly. So we've only just got a few questions to go through today. And as Holly mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we will make this recording available for you so you can view it at a later date. And it is likely that we will rerun another session. So you can attend that as well if you do come up with any questions, or you can contact our support desk or the BPACNZ support desk if you do have anything specific you want answered in the meantime. So Tony, the first question will be for you, and it's around some of the pricing. Currently, we pay $313.50 a year for MIMS, as it is through a PHO deal. Would that price be matched by BPAC?
The short answer is yes. Yeah, we will match that price. We will be talking to PHOs and trying to do deals with them, but as a minimum, we will be matching the MIMS price if it's lower than our quoted price.
Cool, thank you. A question here for you, Graham. What will happen with the medications that they have added manually as a drug to Medtech that the pharmacy make up?
Okay, so what we call those are user-defined drugs. They will remain after activation and still can be prescribed. However, if they belong to a particular drug group or alerting group within NZF, they should be set up inside the drug setup utility, and that way the medical warnings will then activate when necessary during prescribing. So bottom line is they'll still remain there, but you may want to review them to update the alerting group that they belong to.
Okay, and there's a similar question here. It looks like someone's also set up a drug manually in the system, saying our practice uses a drug called CanCome 6 monthly for prescriptions. That will be the same, right? That it will be retained if it's been configured as a user-defined drug.
Yeah, that's correct. Obviously, this wouldn't be a drug, so there's no need to update the generic group or generic name or alerting group that it belongs to, because it's not a drug.
Yeah, cool. What will happen with GP to GP imports if sending practice uses a different drug formulary? Do you want to explain the process there?
Okay, so fortunately both formularies use the common identifier called the NZULM code, which is a code issued prior to the New Zealand formulary release. So those codes are used to map drugs between each formulary. So for the most part, they will be automatically mapped to whatever formulary you have in use. However, as Holly indicated earlier in the presentation, if there was drugs that are no longer in use in New Zealand, they will come through as italics inside and still be displayed in the patient record. And if they will be to be repeated, then a new drug will need to be selected from the NZ formulary.
Okay, cool. That also answers another question, which was exactly the same that was raised around transmitting and receiving, where practices have different drug formularies being used. So the next question here is around the monthly drug updates. So can they be run while users are logged in, and do you need to run a backup and restore before the monthly updates?
We would recommend that users are not logged in because the information could change in front of them, which could be quite dangerous during prescribing. So we would recommend it in the evening once staff have left for the day. The update shouldn't take too long, probably 5 to 10 minutes to run. Same as your MIMS update, basically. So yeah, we recommend all users are logged off. Backup and restore, that should not be necessary. However, you may want to consider that the first time you do it or the second time, just to be assured that everything's running smoothly at your end.
Okay, and do they have to do the monthly drug update manually?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
So in this
but they
case, however,
yeah.
they don't need to go to the NZF website. The link is within the PMS. They simply run that button that Holly indicated to run drug update from the PMS. It will get the data from NZF, download it, and then update your database all in one.
Yeah, and there are instructions on our Insight customer portal and also on the BPAC resources page for how to run those monthly drug updates. Next question here is probably one for you to answer, Tony. If I'm trying to sell this to my practice, what are the top advantages of BPAC over MIMS?
Right. Okay. So I think the principal advantage, the fundamental advantage, is that you are using formulary information, and that is now seen as the source of truth around medicines within New Zealand. Also, there are some, we think the medical warning system is a bit more advanced, it's safer, it's got the severity levels within it. They are probably two of the main advantages. The drugs and sports is better. The interactions checker we think is a better solution for practices. Mostly it's around the quality of the information and the safety aspects from our point of view.
Well, thank you there. So a question here, Graham, existing query builders that are using drug group and not drug name, will the query builders still continue to work after activation?
No, they won't. So if you want to do any queries prior to activation, they should be run. And then after activation, the query builder fields that you can select are different. So from MIMS, it goes from generic group to generic name under NZF, and MIMS drug class goes to alerting group under NZF. So those will need to be altered after activation.
Okay, that's cool. Does the right click still work to default medications to see how many times things have been prescribed?
That's a good question. I might have to come back to you on that one.
Okay, that's cool. So we'll come back to the person that asked that question. We'll just confirm the functionality there and then let you know. I note that there is a mix of generic names and trade. Will both be available for each drug?
Yes, as a matter of principle, they will be. Obviously, the ministry encourage generic prescribing where possible. That way, if brands are no longer available in New Zealand, they don't get cause confusion at the pharmacy end. However, there will be a few drugs that are brand-only medications like warfarin, insulins, etc., where the system forces you to prescribe by brand.
Okay, cool. With the monthly update, are we alerted when this has to happen monthly? Tony, please correct me if I'm wrong, but as subscribers, you will be notifying the practices when the drug update is available to download. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're obviously keeping a list of subscribers, and as soon as we're notified by Medtech that it's ready to go, then we send out a notification to all subscribing practices that they can do the monthly upgrade.
Yep, cool. Are there currently any practices using this that we could observe it live? Yes, there are a few practices that are using this already. We've gone through an extensive beta program. It's been available in the market and being used by practices since October last year. So we have some that have been using it for quite a number of months now. So we can put you in contact with some of those practices, and BPAC have a list of those as well. So we can arrange that if necessary. You just need to contact either our support desk or the BPAC support desk, and when we can make some of those arrangements. Next one here. I think there was a question earlier that's being re-asked again that we can follow up on. Just 1 second while I find it. If we don't have enough information on old medical warnings, so are unable to classify the severity, will it keep coming up with a warning? Graham, do you just want to cover that one off so people understand that process?
Yeah, so we've given a lot of thought to this, and we have made the severity value mandatory. So some value must be supplied prior to prescribing, just so to help ensure prescribing is safe. If you're not clear on the level of allergy with the patient, that should be discussed with them prior to prescribing. But obviously the severity only needs to be updated at the time of prescribing. Otherwise, the record will still be able to be exported without a severity via GP to GP, etc.
Okay, cool. So there's a question here. Holly demonstrated how medications will be italicized in some instances. Someone has asked a question around, will every routine medication be italicized in the first instance and need to be manually re-entered on the first time to repeat it? Graham, do you just want to run through the process we've been through there with the mapping of the medications?
Yeah, so certainly all active medications have been mapped between the two formularies. However, we have seen a large number of inactive medications in MIMS that are still being repeated. They may be in italics. And in that instance, what we do, if you repeat those italic medications, a prompt is displayed, which we do a partial search of that drug for you to see if we can find it inside the NZ formulary. And if it is, it's just a matter of selecting the right drug and the strength. So it's basically a module that is very similar to the drug search module. So we use the generic name of the medication to try and search the NZ formulary to try and find a suitable replacement drug.
Yeah, so we've managed to map as many as we can. So it'll only be those ones, as Graham mentioned, that fall into that gap that you will see as italicized. And we've done a lot of mapping with our beta sites to make sure that we can get that list as complete as possible.
And just to save some frustration, we have also included inactive drugs in the NZ formulary for now. So you will still, in a worst case scenario, be able to repeat a drug that effectively is no longer available in the current brand. But we will be looking to introduce some prompting going forward to indicate that you're prescribing a brand that's no longer available and recommend that you choose an active drug. But that will be in a future release.
So the next question here is there an ability to prescribe things such as, I think it's called ROGAM, that are not drugs but still require prescriptions?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. I guess they mean a user-defined drug, perhaps, like a green script. I don't know. But yeah, as I said earlier, user-defined drugs will remain after activation.
Okay, is there an easy way to convert old allergies that were put in as note no allergy instead of no known allergies?
No, we've got a feature built in that indicates no known allergies, and after activation, that status is transferred through to the new formulary automatically. But if you've got a manual medical warning that says no known allergies, they will remain as they are today. And if you've got RX ticked rather inside the medical warning, then that note will display during prescribing at all times.
Okay.
Just jumping in on that one as well. I think the idea though for prescribers is that you want to move as many medication-based medical warnings out of note onlys as possible and classify them properly. So I know in some practices there are patients that have note entered and it would say augmentin GI upset or something like that. You should try and get into the habit with your prescribers of classifying those allergies correctly and putting it as a medical-based medical warning and putting the severity of that in so it's cross-referenced properly when you're prescribing. And now that you have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, and I don't think it was demonstrated, but when those note onlys are displayed in the grid in the new medication window, you can double click them and they open up, and that way you can then change it to whatever you like.
Do you just want to show that, Holly, just so people are aware of what Graham's referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just bring it up. So if you wanted to enter a note only, are you saying, Graham, or change a previously?
Yeah, just put in your note only and put in penicillin allergy. And RX warning is ticked, yep, that'll do. Now just prescribe any drug. So you'll see down below in the grid, there's note only penicillin. Holly can double click that. It opens it up. She can now change it to medication, put in penicillin or alerting group, and away she goes.
Cool. Hopefully that clarifies it.
Okay, cool. So it looks like that's all the questions that we have, Holly, at the moment. So we're probably good to close off there.
Wonderful, thank you everyone. And just remember, we'll put a copy of this webinar and we'll get back to you if we didn't answer your questions in the next few days, and a copy of this webinar will be put on our Insight customer portal by the middle of next week. So thank you very much for attending, and just reach out to us if you have any other questions. Thank you, thanks Tony, thanks Graham, thanks Chrissy.
Thanks a lot.
Here you go.
Thanks. Bye.